Life implies death. Death implies life. There cannot be a beginning with no end, and there can be no end without a beginning. But I'm left to wonder, what came before the beginning?
Hello, everybody. It's me, Dregobob. Welcome to Psychopomp. This is a downright insane game made by a developer called Fading Club or Carbonic, a single dev and composer who created the game we're looking at today. The ideas, themes, and eventual story that is unfolded before our very eyes brought me awe, but mostly curiosity, as some of the things that are shown to you but not actually explained any further than what the game reveals to you left me grasping at air trying to understand what I'd seen, why these things were here, and when exactly everything happened. Psychopomp, like many games of its sort, tells a story you have to piece together on your own. Unlike some games and topics, however, there's still a very clear story that's laid out before the player, and beyond that, hidden lore that makes the game's story all the more bizarre when coupled with what you can find on the surface. Like most of my videos, we'll begin at the beginning with our main character, who strangely enough doesn't have a name, though I'll dub them Pompey for soon-to-be obvious reasons. I'd also like to ask if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Every little bit helps my channel, and I'm aiming for 9,000 before the end of the summer. And you can also tell me about future series you'd like me to cover in the future on my Discord server and in the comments down below. With that, let's begin. Everyone everywhere has secrets. Did you know that everyone has special powers and they've kept it a secret from me my entire life? But I won't stand for that. That's why he made a helmet. I call it Machine That Lets Me Read People's Minds When I Want To, or Psychopomp for short. But something happened when I put it on. It didn't let me read people's minds, but it did let me see something else. A world that was hidden from me, that everyone knew about. A world hidden in plain sight with all sorts of animals and creatures and dead bodies. There are catacombs hidden under every public government building. I will not allow any more secrets to be kept from me. Psychopomp begins with that cutscene. Pompey is painted as a paranoid woman. Not only that, but more than anything, Pompey seems to suffer from schizophrenia. As described by Wikipedia, schizophrenia is a mental disorder characterized visually by hallucinations, typically hearing voices, delusions, disorganized thinking and behavior, and flat or inappropriate affect. I'll go over most of these at different points throughout the video, when they arise, but this opening cutscene alone gives me far more than enough reason to say this. Not only that, I've seen a character similar to this in another completely different series titled I Can't Sleep, yet another horror project I've had on the back burner for ages now. But getting back to the game at hand, Pompey outright begins this cutscene with these words. Everyone everywhere has secrets, and did you know that everyone has special powers, and they've kept it a secret from me my entire life? This ties into delusions, paranoia, and fear. Fear of people keeping secrets from her. This fear leading them to create the aptly named helmet, machine that lets me read people's minds when I want to, or Psychopomp. However, as opposed to its intended function, it revealed a world hidden from them. Or, alternatively, kickstarted their hallucinations. Somehow. And it's with that, the cutscene is ended by solidifying their paranoia with the phrase, I will not allow any more secrets to be kept from me. With all of this, we can safely leave the main character's strange way of thinking and train of thought to the aforementioned schizophrenia diagnosis. We can also say the near-constant smile they have on their face is a form of emotional blunting or an inappropriate effect. The best example we have is the confusion or fear Pompey seems to display in the cutscene, which is replaced with the nervous smile. Throughout the game, this is also one of the few emotions we see them sport. There's no anger, no sadness, or really powerful emotions, as it seems there's just childlike wonder, curiosity, or indifference. Maybe even a mix of these things. Moving on to the first level, we see this more as Pompey encounters a troubled girl. As you approach them, Pompey comments, "You can talk to people and do many things with them too, though they may lie to you in many ways." You have 4 ways of interacting with the world around you: inspect or look, speak or dialogue, touch or feel, and the most important sense, the hammer. Through my playthrough, I made sure to use all 3 of these options to uncover whatever I could. It's through the inspect command that you can gain more insight into Pompey's character via her own thoughts. The girl doesn't make you think anything one way or another. You feel she's polite for being that way. Every NPC you encounter in the game has 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, a reaction to Pompey attempting to touch them, and most importantly, a perception or thought Pompey has about the beings and people she meets. I've recorded over 6 hours of footage in this game. From start to finish, this video will likely be one of my longest. But to save on time, and my own sanity, I will be covering the most important things I've found, ranging from secrets, hidden lore, and the main story itself. Going level to level, at the end I'll give a plot explanation. Heading back to the level I mentioned, there isn't all too much else to do here besides the tutorial. And this dog, who after being pet a good bit, in Pompey's words, bloomed wonderfully. This dog, or the king of all dogs, tells us, "Don't idle here. You have much to do. Don't worry, for there is a plan to everything. I'm sure you will see in due time, my friend." Quite ominous, if I do say so myself. Leaving this level, we're shown the world map, a strange red place with a number of places to go: sewage treatment, public school, children's hospital, call, and home. Entering what's more than likely Pompey's home, we find it really isn't much of one. It's dingy, a single room with 2 windows, a lone mattress sitting on the floor, and a table with a radio atop it. However, this may not actually be Pompey's physical home, and I'll get into that later. Going back into the world selection stage, we enter one of the 3 levels. The order doesn't exactly matter, as I've found the story itself will flow all the same in the very end. But the most important thing they give us is more insight into Pompey's mind, their way of thinking, and the bizarre nature of this world that was formerly hidden from Pompey. The first level I chose was Sewage Treatment. It seems not to matter what level you choose as your first, but you're always given this famous quote: "It's not hard to enter a public building. The buffoon who invented locks and windows has never heard of a hammer." It's also in each of these entrance areas leading towards the elevator that leads to the meat of each level that we get Pompey's thoughts on each of these government facilities. Oftentimes, she's either distrustful, skeptical, or seems weirded out, or even disturbed by the idea. Sewer Treatment's opening dialogue boxes read, "Water treatment. Human waste being processed and cleaned, made acceptable for consumption again. Chemicals being added to chemicals to remove chemicals. If water treatment is for our safety and concern, why is there an elevator heading straight into human waste? What could be hidden down there? And if it's such a big secret, why is it so easy to go down there? Sick fucks." Heading downwards, the interior of Sewage Treatment feels almost like something medieval or almost fantastical and bleak at the same time. The floors are lined with symmetrical tiles, the walls seemingly made of heavy chiseled stones. The only light there is to speak of are the red, dim floodlights and eerie glow of something. Trees and other flora also sprout from the walls. Things like trees and vines are fairly common, though down here, bizarre beings I'll call the kawaii folk lurk about. Some immobile, while others are monstrous and seek to harm Pompey. From my understanding, these things are made up of human waste, fat, and other things that clump together to form these cohesive living masses. The only differentiating features each have are their shape, size, and interests. The first one you meet asks of Pompey, and I quote, "Would you like to be tangled up?" If you attempt to touch it, it also deals some damage to Pompey. The text above reading, "You touch the stock thing, but it grabs your hand. You barely manage to pull your hand free at the last moment." Before I get into this level's primary goal, we have a few more things to look at. Throughout the game, we'll come into contact multiple times with beings known as the Thrait, a seemingly all-female race of animal-like creatures that live within the sewers and various other places on the planet. Unlike most creatures, they are also mostly opposed to Pompey reaching out to touch them. From the Thrait Elder, we also learn this place was once clean and not used for waste management. This raises more questions, namely, what happened here? What happened to this place? This race also ties into a special location on the map, a place of worship in their religion, one that centers around a currently nameless winged being. We also get 2 more glimpses into Pompey's different way of thinking. She notes the Thrait woman in this room as being rude for not letting her yank her hair. And the statue is apparently the kind of concrete you want to lick, full of texture and holes, which I both thought were odd and funny at the same time. This also ties into OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, a known symptom of schizophrenia I forgot to mention, but something most people have, just in general. Which also explains why Pompey feels the need to touch practically everything they possibly can. But again, there's more than meets the eye to Pompey herself. In this level, you can also discover a couple different notes with interesting subject matter. One being a note from a doctor of sorts, and another that's more than likely from Pompey herself. The one coming from a doctor speaks of another Earth in the sky. If you pay any mind during the opening sequence, we do see just that. Apparently, whoever this letter is addressed to also seems to be chalking it up to a massive equipment failure, despite it being directly in front of their faces. As for the second letter, it feels like an entry from a diary of sorts. The date above reads April 19th, and we don't get any prior to this one, nor do we get a year, so this could have been written at some point this week, a month before, or even multiple years prior. The strange thing is also how exactly this note found itself hidden down below the underbelly of Sewage Treatment and the former home of the Thrait. The message subject matter is also equally strange, so let's look at that.
I feel like I just woke up the other day for the first time. I have memories before Sunday, but they just feel so hazy, so much less vivid. I feel so awake now, so real. I just can't stop smiling. Something good has happened. It's happened!
Below, we also see this brilliant drawn self-portrait. While interesting in its own right, this note doesn't yet give us anything of substance. As for the goal of this level, while things in most every level begin with Pompey simply exploring, it ends with them undertaking a task from something there with little, or more often than anything else, no questions asked. Sewage Treatment's goal isn't clear until we eventually get a key from a particular nugget, and enter a massive chamber. It's there you meet the Queen, and sole birther of new Kauai Nugget folk. Apparently it's her time to kick the bucket, as talking to the nuggets beside her reveals they have to be recycled. And we do just that. I personally spent like 3 minutes hitting them with a hammer, but you're supposed to flip 2 levers, one raising a bridge and the other causing a chain reaction that puts the Queen down. Returning to the former Queen's throne, we find a strange object, one known as an egg of the earth. You can't inspect or talk to it, which is rather odd when everything else with even minor notability can be interacted with. But you can collect it, which simply gives you a screen saying you got an egg of the earth. This thing most resembles a fish egg. It's got 4 nubs, a tail, and strange glowing eyes. Whenever you collect one, this cutscene plays, showing Pompey tossing the egg into a pit. The level from there ends, booting us back into the overworld. Now, in the level, I neglected to mention, we also collected a key. This key can be used in Pompey's home to access deeper and deeper areas. This reveals that in truth, this place is the inner workings of her mind. I won't bring this place up again until we collect every key, so returning to World Select, we discover a new location. A transient location. There's between 2 and 3 per area, and I'll take a look at these 3 right now. The first transient location is called Daddy's Bad Place, which is already a really uncomfortable sounding name, though it might refer to a character we'll meet in a long while. The only thing of note in the area is a TV, one with a message I'll allow to play in full now.
Repeat. At 3:45 a.m. today, a state of emergency was declared following the appearance of a large unknown insectoid creature in the Melness borough of Central City. The
How bizarre. One thing to note is the statue we see in the Thrait Church is insectoid, but possesses a humanoid head and arms. Its wings also resemble those of a dragonfly. Perhaps this broadcast is referring to this mysterious being. For now, that's all there is in this location. The next, however, provides a conversation between two people. Entering this transient location, we see two orbs, Pompey commenting that it's a floating orb. Something about it seems simultaneously important and absolutely worthless. The conversation between these two is also quite interesting, as I'm almost entirely sure now that one of the characters we've seen thus far is a part of it. So let's give it a read, shall we? Hey, can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. I hope you're doing well. It's boring here. I'm dying of boredom. I can't stand the desert. Ugh. What's to status? The Queen? She's awake, but still dormant, trying to hide. Doesn't matter, though. Her progress is perfect. What about the other one? The King is fast asleep, like a big, dumb, snoring baby. Good. Do not wake him up until I tell you to. The last thing we need to deal with is both of them at the same time. Not until everything is ready. Oh, do we have to? There's nothing to do around here. Especially these little puppets. They're boring. Not like the real thing. These ones don't squirm right, and they make such a mess when they pop. Have patience. Soon we'll have more fun than ever before. If you say so. You're the boss. Am I a good boy? The best of boys. The king of all boys. Once we see you again, I'll give you a big, nice bone. Sounds lovely. I'll look forward to that. Oh, wait. Is this channel secure? Nobody listening can do anything. This conversation appears to take place between the king of all dogs and an, as of now, unnamed character, or multiple, who's also assumedly of importance. They make references to two characters we've again not yet seen or been revealed to. The Queen and the King. What these two are the king and queen of, per se, is not yet clear. However, if what the king of all dogs said is to be believed, there is a greater plot going on beyond what our character can see, and this more than likely involves our own character in some way. Whether they're a cog meant to somehow aid in getting to the king and queen in some way, or perhaps Pompey is even this queen they speak of. But again, we don't have enough information to make any solid conclusions. The next two transient locations, however, gives us more insight into the Thrait, as this one leads us to a location called the Thrait Village, which again is set in the sewers. While interesting on its own, this place more importantly gives us insight on this world. We're told by one elder that after the humans appeared, not arrived or invaded, appeared, pushed them off the surface and into the sewers. From another, we also hear they saw one get hit by a car. They exploded into dust and clay. This same one also seems to not understand what we are. The statement about humans bursting into dust and clay is also reinforced when we think back to the conversation between the king of all dogs and the other unknown character. Talk about humans not squishing right and making a mess everywhere. This world we're in isn't right. The fact that there's a second Earth in the sky orbiting this one is evidence enough. So while Pompey may be suffering from a mental illness or something else, their suspicions, paranoia, and fear seems not to be all in their head. You could argue that the helmet simply made everything worse, but there's simply far too much laid out now for us to chalk it up to that. Moving on to the final location, its title is one of interest. Starting Point. This location I didn't manage to discover on my playthrough, but the official wiki page for Psychopomp states, Starting Point is a transient location consisting of a small hall with a Thrait elder and an open chrysalis. The Thrait states the queen hatched when no one was around and who knows where, and worries that vermin dogs will mislead her. Despite this, she says she still has faith that she will return. We again hear about the queen, and on top of that, we now know that this queen is likely the god or being of worship the Thrait center their religion around. As I've said before, it's likely the insect we hear about in Daddy's Bad Place is this queen we've heard about. The biggest question we have now is, who is the queen? They aren't dead, at least we don't know if they are, and if they aren't, where are they now? With these hidden locations out of the way, we have two more main locations to look at: public school and children's hospital. Entering public school, we again receive Pompey's thoughts on this place. And again, they are bizarre. When you sleep inside a school, you learn new things. When I sleep inside a school, I taste new things. Through the smell of pencil, wood, and erasers, I can smell something new. A thick, iron smell. I'm getting close. The elevator is down this way. I can feel it even if I can't see it. It's like a vein that goes down into a heart. Apparently, Pompey seems to have a sixth sense about these elevators. We also get another look at their interest in tastes and presumably textures. Though I find it odd how they say when you sleep instead of something a bit more conventional. Then again, we are dealing with Pompey, so we should already suspect things will be odd. Going down the elevator, we find ourselves in a massive factory. A massive factory situated beneath an elementary school. This factory is headed by the head of production, who's actually just a giant head that wants its life to end due to how mundane it's become. The factory itself specializes in the recycling of human children that are melted into slag and turned to, and I quote, butter knives and egg slicers, as well as this bizarre creature called a parasitic enamel maker, which produces tooth enamel that's applied to the teeth of children above the factory so their knowledge can be put into an algorithm and used to create future lessons. Now, the idea of melting a person into molten slag is strange, but again, like many of the things we've been piecing together, it will come into play later when we acquire more information. Beyond the main objective of this level, which is offing the head of production, we don't gain anything else besides the aforementioned info on the factory. And this notebook entry of sorts reading, Open Valley. When the child looks to the sky, they will make believe about the stars, planets, and other impossible lights shining above. When the adult looks to the sky, they will see no light, but take comfort in it. There is no danger in nothingness. But when the dead looks to the sky, they will smile and close their eyes, seeing that there was light all along. This rather pretty poem is also scribbled over by text reading, Stupid, there are no stars. Which can mean there really are no stars, or what this strange passage says is true, and those who are old enough and lack the whimsy and wonder that was once in their hearts can no longer see the stars above. And that does it for this area, leaving one last place for this current layer, the Children's Hospital. As you should know, this is the norm by now. Let's see Pompey's thoughts on this place. Children's hospitals all have the same smell to them. It's a clean smell that somehow makes you want to vomit. Like a mixture of bleach and Elmer's glue. I love it. Doctors always smile when they say they can't help you. Give them the copay and die more as they tell you you aren't full of cancer, aren't full of incurable diseases. And through it all, the elevator is there. I can smell it. That smell of rust and petrol breaking through the clean hospital smell. The door's wide open, waiting for me to enter. As always, Pompey's thoughts are unhinged and fairly insane. However, as we've already covered, Pompey is a paranoid person. It's more than likely the second set of text is a reflection on their feelings of this place, and likely most government buildings in general, as the entire game involves us breaking and entering to discover what lies in the catacombs down below. And with that smooth segue, let's move on to the bulk of the level, which places us in a hospital for the elite, or as the Eternal Nurse describes them, the most important individuals of humankind, where these individuals are preserved in honor of their contributions and as a sign for the rest of humanity to follow, where these individuals are surrounded with their most favorite things in life, they'll never be bored, and they'll never be unhappy. As for these individuals, there are three: Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, and Plateau. Alexander the Great was great due to their military achievements. As such, their bizarre mass is surrounded by death on the screens behind them. You see a shark in bloodied water, skulls, and mushrooms. Alexander says,
"There's nothing greater in this world than the feeling of battle. To conquer and be conquered. To feel that warm slick on your hand. Wouldn't you agree? I would do anything to feel another man's blood again."
This is disturbing enough, but next up is Cleopatra, who was famed for their intellect and relationships with a number of famous Romans, which were political and strategic. Playing into this, we hear the sound of clapping hands on the screens behind them, raised fists, smiling mouths, and dozens of eyes, all on her. They talk about popularity, and what they really refer to here is politics. Popularity and politics. When spoken about in this way, both go hand in hand.
"There's nothing better in life than having people think you're helping them. Popularity is absolutely key when moving forward. If you play your cards right, anything seems necessary. A massacre, a young girl with a slit throat, the disillusion of people, a crushed slave revolt. They'll do it all for you if you know how."
When I read this, I couldn't help but think of the politics of our modern world. It's dog eat dog. Whoever lies the best usually wins, and that best liar does a little, then sweeps everything by the wayside to live the lap of luxury, all while their followers support them blindly, and they keep those around them happy and pacified. I've already taken this in a bit of a political direction, so I'll just leave that at that. Finally, the third and last of these individuals is Plateau. If you don't know who that is, I don't blame you, because I didn't either. Now for a quick history lesson. Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher of the classical period who was considered a foundational thinker in Western philosophy and an innovator of the written dialogue and dialectic forms. He influenced all of the major areas of theoretical philosophy and practical philosophy, and was the founder of the Platonic Academy, a philosophical school in Athens where Plato taught the doctrines that would later become known as Platonism. Platonism? Platonism. And they were notably a student of the famous philosopher Socrates. Of the three, I felt they were one of the better choices here, until I discovered what their most favorite things were, as the sound of children playing filled my ears, and I bore witness to the screens displaying an image of a baby's crib, a playground, and children's toys on each of the three TVs. What they say is even more disturbing.
I was right about everything in my life except for the cave. I was totally off the mark with that. No matter. There is no better sound than the sound of...
And I'm not reading the rest of that. That's not a soundbite I want existing out there. Now, as for the cave, a rather basic explanation of it is the setup. Imagine prisoners who have been chained inside of a dark cave their entire lives. They face a blank wall and cannot turn around. Behind them is a fire, and between the fire and prisoners is a raised walkway where objects are moved, casting shadows on the wall in front of the prisoners. The prisoners perceive these shadows as reality because it's all they've ever known. They hear echoes and think they come from the shadows. The escape. One prisoner breaks free and ventures outside of the cave. At first, the sunlight blinds him, but gradually he sees the real world, trees, animals, the sky, and realizes the shadows were mere illusions. He becomes enlightened, understanding the truth about reality. The return. The freed prisoner goes back to the cave to share his newfound knowledge, but the others reject him. They think he's crazy because they can't comprehend a reality beyond the shadows, like them before. This is all about ignorance and how people can get so deeply lost in it. The shadows. Illusions or misconceptions people believe to be true. The cave. The limited, unenlightened human condition. The sun. ultimate truth and knowledge, often linked to Plato's concept of the forms. And the return, the difficulty in enlightening others who are still stuck in ignorance. And all of that seems to represent this world eerily well. Pompey broke free of the shackles of the real world or cave, and discovered what lie beyond it thanks to the sun, their psychopomp. However, we have yet to see a return, if there even will be one. But keep all of this in mind for later. The rest of the level follows Pompey shutting down the life support systems for each of the 3 people here, which I'm kinda happy about. However, while down here we get a glimpse of the moon, which makes no sense because we're supposed to be underground. In fact, there's also a vast sea or lake surrounding this place. I can't forget, but the moon is also a giant eye staring directly at the earth, or the balcony. So not only is there a second sky, but the moon too. But we're also looking at a starless sky, so is this a hollow earth? Planet? It's all strange, but I'm sure I can figure this out. Later, we also encounter another document. This document speaks of 2 enigmatic figures, religious idols from ancient textiles. The papers read, "Recently uncovered text referenced 2 enigmatic figures, Sivanesh Vishneri, Queen of Venus, and Krusner Colvin, King of Mercury. Several ancient textiles depict these beings creating the heavenly bodies and weaving the universe. Their names seemingly refer to 2 fictitious planets, Venus and Mercury respectively, which they held dominion over. It is thought that these figures acted as a subject of worship. However, their descriptions and depictions within the textiles matched no religions or cultures. Fig A symbols of the aforementioned deities. Note the upright cross, possibly denoting a connection to Christianity." Queen and King. Interesting. If you recall earlier, we intercepted a transmission from the King of all Dogs, and an as of now unknown individual. The king is asleep, but the queen is active and moving freely, but dormant, after emerging from their chrysalis, which we discover occurred in the transient location Starting Point. We also know the Queen of Venus and maybe the King of Mercury to be the gods or beings of worship in the Thrait religion, which is likely where these textiles originate. Considering all we've seen, it's also hardly far-fetched to imagine that these 2 did in fact create the universe itself. How long ago the Queen emerged from their chrysalis exactly, we aren't sure. What we do know is that the Queen is awake and active. The King of all Dogs and this unknown individual both seem to have a plan in mind for them. And Pompey, who gained awareness of this world and plan, is caught in the middle of it. However, Pompey is likely far more important than we know. They, after all, have a first-hand encounter with the King of all Dogs and are able to see the truth of reality thanks to their helmet, and very likely plays a big role in whatever plan the King of all Dogs has brewing. Perhaps they're meant to disturb the order that's going on as of now. After all, the game follows Pompey going place to place, utterly wrecking things. Another factor is the eggs of the earth. What exactly they do is still a mystery. But we'll leave the speculation at that for now. At this point in the script creation process, I still have over 2 hours of footage to digest, 2 hours of story and lore to put together. If you're still here, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and give it a like. This video is my current magnum opus, and I adore Psychopomp, so this video is a labor of love. Unfortunately, love doesn't pay the bills. Moving on, the rest of the level doesn't contain too much else that I would consider important. There's more disturbing lore, strange creatures, and a voice from behind a wall reciting a code that, when you remove the rest of the unnecessary words, reads 17, 8, DOC, 2E4, 3, R, 520, OE. But where does it go? Well, I found it. Fading Club's Neocities. It's there on Psychopomp Gold's page. We find it. Down at the bottom of this page, we discover an open end where we can enter the code and be brought to this image with text that reveals much more about the King of all Dogs' plan, and on top of that, those they're working alongside. One of them likely being the other person they spoke to over that transmission we intercepted. But that's not important. Let's look at the text. A poem that reads, Fun. Fun's most fun when it's with you. From sky to shining star, together forever. It's true, to travel near and far. If we break too many toys, and if that makes you blue, we'll reunite that king and queen and make the world anew. Fun will be eternal, then we'll play forevermore. The toys will now have lives again, the better for us four. Toys. We again hear about toys. In the transmission, one of them complained of their toys not squishing right and making such a mess. We also meet a Thrait who spoke of a human splattering into dust and clay after being hit by a car, and just in the last level, we found that children that were of no use to the factory below were being melted and repurposed. On top of that, special enamel was being applied to the children's teeth, so the knowledge they took in could be put to use. I could be grasping, but we see one other normal person in this game. A cowering girl on the surface who says things are only going to get worse. Perhaps people aren't people. At least, there's a growing number of these people that aren't really people. We know Pompey to be flesh and blood thanks to their little face displaying their current appearance and health state, and we know this girl to be real because I may or may not have hit them out of impulse with a hammer, causing them to explode into viscera. We have yet to encounter these fake humans, but the poem and this information put on display leads me to believe they aim to use the pair's power of world creation to make them new toys. Ones that are human and show more vigor and emotion, like the only other human we see in this entire story. And it's with that, I can say I have a reasonable understanding of what the King of All Dogs' primary goal is. Play. They need fresh new ragdolls or humans to play with, which likely means something terribly violent. And they just so happen to be able to use the gods of this universe to their advantage. If only they can get them under their control, as they don't seem to be able to handle the Queen of Venus or dragonflies, let alone the King of Mercury, who themselves is still fast asleep, and what's likely their chrysalis. Moving on, the rest of the level hardly contains anything of note. We destroy the rest of the VIPs, collect an egg of the earth, then leave, only to be met with this descend option, bringing us to 2 more levels. Hard structure and instructions. But there's a new set of secret locations. Ephemeral locations. If you don't know the meaning of the word, just like transient, it means existing for a short period of time. Ephemeral's case, for no longer than a day. Considering these locations have provided some of the most substance and info, I'll cover these first. The first of the locations being the Hollow Nursery, another religious site in the Thrait's religion centered around the Queen of Dragonflies, or Venus. There we meet another Thrait, one that's conflicted, stressed, and worried. Unlike the other Thrait, they don't bat Pompey's hand away, which I don't know why I bothered adding. Looking to what they say, they ponder where their queen has gone, and speak of the giant beings in the room with us, the hollow constructs, ready to act on their queen's will, while the elder stays resolute in their wait for the queen. But they wonder how much longer they have to wait. Beyond this, the location doesn't provide us with anything more interesting, but the next 2 shine even more light on the idea I presented before. The next location is the Natural History Museum, and this location is actually one of the few to have any voice acting in general, so I'll allow things to play out as I saw them.
The first sentient species on our planet were humans. These hairy bipeds were highly intelligent and are thought to have used tools. They were highly emotive, making them very fun. The last human died in captivity years ago, and none have been seen since. After the humans went extinct, the Thraits evolved. These creatures lived in small societies and did nothing of note. They were strong and stoic, which proved very annoying. The last Thrait died in captivity years ago, and we are better for it. After the Thraits went extinct,
The humans evolved.
The way the narrator talks about humans and Thrait feels very biased. They enjoyed the humans, and thought they were fun with how emotive they were. but the Thrait were strong and stoic, which proved annoying. But the most bizarre things to note are that the Thrait came after humans went extinct. In captivity, of all things. The same would happen to the Thrait, and even stranger, after the Thrait, the humans evolved. Within a dark, unlit cell, we see bizarre humanoid things. While their body is obscured in the dark, their body is gray like clay, tying into what we heard from the transmission and that other Thrait. But again, I'm left to wonder, could there possibly be levels to how good the imitation of these false humans is? We know the idea of all humans, including the Thrait, being extinct to be laughable, since we do see a single human and multiple Thrait throughout the game. But between the featureless appearance of these humans and what we're going to see in the next location, I don't think the idea of humans and Thrait being replaced completely to be too far off. As for the next location, we're brought to the human Seedbed, where we meet more humans. Interestingly enough, it's from Pompey we learn how these things work. From the first of these humans, we find they have to learn how to be human before going to the surface. The one we inspect first is just barely beginning to learn how to speak, and of course when we smash it with a hammer, it explodes, with the sound of a vase breaking and a plume of dust. The line, "the human squeezes and moves like it was just born," confirms again that these are fresh. And as time goes on, their ability to mimic what a real human and potentially Thrait is grows better and better. Throughout the rest of the level, we don't get all too much more info on these humans, beyond them interestingly enough having a carapace that needs to harden. But the most important thing we find is one of these humans perfecting imitation. As we know, Pompey's signature weapon is their favorite hammer. The touch option telling us its hands are grasping for hammers, and instead of being called a human, when you try to speak to it, it's labeled as you, but it says nothing. And so, I smash it with my hammer, just like all of the other humans. But these past two ephemeral locations have all but confirmed the idea of humanity, and perhaps even some of the Thrait being these perfected creatures. We now know that their imitation can become perfect. It seems that in their final stages of perfecting imitation, they harden, take the shape of what they aim to mimic, take on their personality traits, and way of moving. From there, they likely go on to live a life as this person. I'd imagine there being two of one person being a problem, so this confrontation we see between Pompey and Pompey might have become violent if given a little more time. The idea I present could also mean the girl we saw stressing at the beginning of the game could have been fleeing from their own double. Then again, it could be a monkey see, monkey do situation, as the human Seedbed is mostly featureless, has no other notable individuals, beyond the humans of course. So it could have just been by chance that this one decided to take on Pompey's form. But that still leaves the why. Where did they come from? What made them? We know that each and every one of these locations is in the catacombs beneath the earth, and these ephemeral locations are located a layer lower than the ones on the surface. And we also know that the world beneath the surface contains the truth of it all, or at the very least, the aspects of the world that were hidden from Pompey, and likely every other human still walking the earth. One thing that may be true is the king of all dogs, and the other three people we see them with, could be far older than we believe. They have knowledge of the queen and king and their abilities to create worlds, and likely entire universes, and plan on using their abilities to recreate Earth, or at the very least the beings that inhabit it, as they only seem driven by their desire to play. Play with what? Well, living things. And judging by the way one of them says they dislike how the false humans squish and make a mess, the same transmission, the poem we read, and how the king of all dogs tells Pompey there is much to be done, it's likely that by this point they've broken far too many toys, and now need the king and queen reunited to make them more. I also believe in the Natural History Museum we hear one of the four speaking. Why else would they say humans were fun because of how emotive they were? And the Thrait annoying because of their stoicism and strength. And the Thrait are strong. They're able to kill the player in a couple of hits too. But to recap, we follow Pompey, who discovers the truth of the world thanks to their helmet, the Psychopomp. They play an important role due to having direct contact with the King of all dogs, who plans to use the powers of the individuals known as the King of Mercury and Queen of Venus to recreate the world, or at the very least replenish their stock of toys, humans and Thrait, who potentially went extinct long ago, and were maybe replaced by the false humans, who we see are able to perfectly replicate the appearance of a human. So why not a Thrait too? The prevailing mysteries right now are why there's a second Earth in the sky, why there's a moon beneath the Earth that's also an eye, who the King of all dogs is, along with their associates, and finally, who the Queen of Venus is, and who the King of Mercury is. There's a few more, but we'll figure it all out as we continue on. I hope. Moving on, the final ephemeral location is the Rust Mother Artificial Cave that houses the Rust Mothers, bizarre machines responsible for all of the rust in the world. We don't learn anything more interesting from them, so let's move on to the next true location. Hard Structure. Like normal, I'll begin with Pompey's thoughts on this place, and as always, their thoughts are quite abstract. What structures are all around us? What is a building? What forms the earth beneath our feet? How does it think? How does it respirate? What does a hard structure eat? Earth is created of buildings that we make. As Pompey speaks, we're surrounded by a hard structure. I at first thought I was looking at the apartments in an individual building until I realized they more so resembled some kind of support structure made from rebar. And I again was left wondering what exactly this place is for. If you haven't noticed, each location we've seen has served a higher purpose of sorts. The Children's Hospital keeps VIPs or important figures from history alive. The school applies a special enamel to children's teeth to take the knowledge they gain, which is more than likely sent down below to the fake humans, while in the case of Sewage Treatment, it was once a place of worship and a place the Thrait once called home, but was overrun by the Nugget folk. This place, however, is actually the birthplace of all buildings, or at the very least, massive skyscrapers and or apartment complexes that rise through these catacombs and sprout to the surface like teeth. Oh, and also, buildings are sentient, because in Psychopomp, everything's got a secret. We should know this by now. Like most levels, they don't exactly tell us very much about the underlying story, but do give us ever-interesting world-building info, and a lot of strange pieces to put together. As down here, we again see the eyeball moon from the Children's Hospital, or perhaps a separate one altogether, and a massive sea of blood from which all of these buildings emerge. Even more bizarrely, we see a blue sky covered with clouds, or something that looks the part, making me wonder even more how these layers of the catacombs work. The goal of this level is to get rid of an infestation of parasitic silkworms. Throughout this level, we collect different ingredients for an aerosol meant to clear the level of these eggs and the moths themselves, so Pompey can get past the main root sphincter, which is clenched up tight due to all the moths around. Beyond this sphincter is the root of every building we see here and likely beyond. So, are the buildings plants? Animals? A type of mushroom? That's a question for another day, as after a fair bit of work gathering the building blocks for the aerosol, Pompey heads to the roof, disperses it, and kills off all of the invasive insects. Passing through the main root sphincter, we find ourselves in the presence of the Taproot, the original building, as every other building we see is a genetic clone of the subject. We're also told to be careful around it, and so we smash it with our hammer, effectively killing every building on the planet, or at the very least the ones down here with us, as we watch every building that was above come crashing down into the massive sea of blood below. And it's with that we get our next egg of the earth. Like most areas, this place leaves the player and me with more questions than answers. On top of that, it doesn't do anything to add to the primary story, and seems to be more cool yet bizarre world building. And that now leaves us with the final location of the area. Instructions, or DNA instructions, as you and I could guess by its little sprite. Though, this place is quite interesting, as upon entering the level, Pompey herself doesn't even have anything to say. She seems more shocked or confused than anything else. What kind of place is this? What do these buildings do? Why is this place... Elevator. Pompey doesn't say anything notably cryptic or odd, which is odd for them. They simply press forward and enter the elevator to head down to the world below. This place, unsurprisingly, houses all DNA and is, of course, the birthplace of all DNA. But this clay allele states, "Here is where we make instructions. Instructions for everything. Everything that has happened to you. Everything you have ever done. It was all decided here." We learn more about that when we talk to several other clay alleles throughout the level. Apparently, this is also the home of every genetic disease, virus, birth defect, deformity, and just about everything that can ail and likely even benefit a human. In this level, it's our job or objective to get rid of a sentient teratoma, which, according to the internet, is a type of germ cell and embryonal cancer that is an encapsulated tumor with tissue or organ components resembling normal derivatives of all three germ layers, which is rather creepy. So, after collecting its genetic info in a syringe, we roam about, turning on a few DNA sequencers or whatever they are, and getting the proper sequence for a concoction to destroy the teratoma. After doing so, we return and inject it, clearing the way. However, we didn't know how to, or maybe didn't even care to make the injection local. So, this injection spreads all across the area, effectively killing DNA, destroying all disease, deformities, and likely all the other awful things with it, for better and for worse. This level also opened my eyes to another possibility. What with the Queen and King literally having forged the stars, planets, and universe, overall it's a real possibility that some of these places were expressly created by the gods to make the Earth more or less go round. Think of the world as a big machine or ant farm to make it self-sufficient, with these catacombs stretching around quite literally the entire Earth, or Earth 2, if the one in the sky is really the original. It's likely there's manufacturing plants, farms, and a whole other myriad of different things meant to keep the world running. If my other idea with the humans and potentially the Thrait being mostly or completely replaced with these clay fakes is true, it could just mean we're hitting a breaking point. After all, the king of all dogs and their compatriots at this point only seem to want to destroy humans and likely Thrait for the thrill of it, or some other reason. Considering their knowledge on the king and queen respectively, it's likely they're absolutely ancient in age, as I said before. And if they've needed entertainment all the while, they may finally be pushing the system to its limits. Of course, there's the chance I'm completely wrong about all of this, but we have one final level and a few other things to look at. Right now, let's take a gander at that phone that's been collecting dust throughout our entire playthrough. Here in the phone, there are about 7 different calls you can make. Throughout my playthrough, I only found 4 on my own. Bugs, body, king, and dogs. Of the ones I needed the internet for assistance to find, there's wild, worm, and 4. Of all of these, only bugs and king make any real sense to me in the face of the story that is unfolded. The others may come into play later on, or not. As for the one speaking, it's confirmed to be the king of all dogs in a Tumblr post. I'll allow these 2 messages to play now.
I'm so fucking tired of these damn bugs. Every which way I go, it's mantises or beetles or other shit. I can't stand them. I can't stand the way they crunch, the way they smell, the sounds they make, and these damn worlds they create. But don't worry, we won't be dealing with bugs for very long.
Hello, you've reached the Arroyo Inn. I'm very sorry, but there are no vacant rooms at the moment. If you're calling for a guest, he's currently asleep. Please leave a callback number, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks. Bye.
bugs as a call, when paired with the knowledge it comes from the king of all dogs, makes this interesting. It gleams us more information on their true feelings about the queen of dragonflies, more than likely, as we've seen them to be heavily associated with the insect. But their endgame for the pair still remains uncertain. However, it's more than likely not good. On top of this, the mention of beetles leads me to think the king of Mercury is associated with that type of insect as well. Speaking of them, the call king explicitly refers to a lone sleeping guest. It's my guess that this refers to the king of Mercury, and of course there's the name of the call, which more or less completely confirms that they are fast asleep somewhere else on Earth, or the Earth-like planet in orbit. The only thing that's notable about this location is that it's named after, or just a misspelled version of, Arroyo, a dry watercourse that temporarily or seasonally flows after sufficient rain. This name could also tie into the king and queen's nature, as beings that periodically awaken to set things right, change things, or just simply give maintenance to the universe they constructed. Or helped constructed. But enough of that. We have more hidden locations to look at, a final mega location, and the inner depths of Pompey's mind to look at. From there, we can begin putting all the pieces together and hammering things out. The secret locations here are called aberrant locations. When something is aberrant, it is deviating from what's proper or normal. To be abnormal or exceptional in all the wrong ways. These locations are just that because of their bizarre imagery and contents. The first aberrant location is titled Spiral. As you can expect, it's a long, spiraling staircase leading downwards. The bottom of the spiral brings us to an utterly bizarre scene. Down a hall with several phrases and odd imagery I can't exactly explain, these phrases say, hand of a father, hand of a mother, heart of a child, mind of a demon. What's beyond these phrases is some strange scene showing some type of creature floating in the middle of a yet stranger scene. 4 hands and 4 smiley faces. What's notable is this entity floating in the weird void has 4 eyes and, I believe, 4 different colors of vein or nerve. If it wasn't obvious, this strange place was referring to the king of all dogs, and their compatriots, a family of sorts, a father, mother, and daughter. However, this bizarre thing we see here leads me to imagine some things. Specifically, the idea that this being is the sort of embodiment or true body of the 4 we see in the picture, each representative of a part of this being's body. Code, the mind. The daughter, its heart, maybe even organs, and the parents, the remaining pieces. Then again, I could be misinterpreting. Perhaps this bizarre creature is a representation of the group. Maybe even a beneficiary or a leader of sorts. At the same time, you can't interact with anything in the room, so we'll leave it at that. While we've somewhat come to the conclusion the world we're on is by design, the name of these locations on the map, aberrant location, likely means something deeper. By this point, Pompeii has descended far, far beneath the Earth's surface. I can imagine the deeper you go, the older and messier things get. Like a cancer, these aberrant locations and a select few of their lesser siblings on the upper levels weren't ever truly meant to be. But with this game, you can't ever tell for sure. The next location on the list is titled Special Shower. The location dives directly into one of the phone calls I spoke about earlier, specifically Body. I'll allow it to play now.
Every night I've dreamed of a flayed woman in my bathtub. She sits there, submerged waist-high in a mass of her own sliced flesh, splashing her near-skeletal hands in and out of the frothy remains, and looks at me with a smile, excitedly playing in the delight of flesh becoming an object, separate from oneself and completely discernible from the whole. The flesh is old and has turned gray, far more than could ever have possibly come from her, and yet it is all from her. She stands up, moving without muscle, only slight tendon on her bones, and crawls out of the tub and runs through the yard, dancing in joy of that holy release, at that ability to finally be free.
Remarkably, the woman in the tub looks quite similar to Pompey. The only difference being their hair is gray, Their eyes are dead and they wear a large crown atop their head. The community often refers to this character as the Prince, though part of me likes to think the phone call in particular is in part talking about the act of molting, throwing out the old and becoming something new. I'll talk more about this later, if I don't forget about this rather mundane location. But we have one more aberrant location to look at, and finally, the mega location I spoke of before. This final aberrant location is named Nature. This place is a dark, cold, and rusty place. After walking down several dark halls, we enter a massive chamber containing giant, squawking, tweeting bird heads floating in place. It's down the middle of the walkway. In a darkened chamber, we discover the avatar of nature, the origin of human and likely animal nature alike. When looking at it, Pompey says, "The symbol calls to something inside you that you haven't felt since before you were even born." And when you go to touch it, you're told Pompey was already touching it. The things it says doesn't give us much to go off of, but this location confirms something quite interesting. Beyond the Queen of Dragonflies and the King of Mercury, as well as Code and his family, there are other beings with greater meaning in the grand scheme of things beyond them. However, the fact the King and Queen are creation gods could mean, in all likelihood, that this place is just another construct they put in place, as well as the avatar of nature. Finally, we're brought to Symbols, the final level. Upon entering, we walk through a mundane hallway, for what may very well be the last time. Though Pompey says nothing as we approach the elevator. Instead, as we enter, that world falls away, the walls scattering in different directions to reveal a grand, monolithic structure before us. Symbols, the largest level contained in the game. This gargantuan level leads Pompey through a truly ancient place. The beings that inhabit it are just as strange as everything around them, but the primary goal of this level is to open 4 locks leading to the level's exit. However, to do so, we must gain an understanding of the world and what makes it. This entails us traveling across the level to meet the 4 paragons. These paragons each represent a fundamental aspect or part of the world. This world that we're in the depths of. These paragons are the paragons of concepts, symbols, people, and flesh. A paragon is something of true excellence, or even perfection in a sense. With these being the embodiments of these most important aspects, it's no wonder they're labeled as such. Through our travels here, we also meet the symbol people. Atom-thin, bizarre creatures who, like other characters we meet, give us context to what exactly this place is. It's through several we learn some interesting things about this place. By the sounds of it, this part of the world is among the oldest part of a kingdom, as well as the source of presumably all things in this world. It's from more of these symbol folk and other NPCs we gather information about the level. Just like the others, it's from this symbol person we learn that these 4 aspects originated from the original 2 thinkers. The king and queen, no doubt. And that the symbol folk themselves, as well as likely everything else in this world, are derived from these 4 aspects. Another notable thing is the extreme variety in the monsters in this level. Even more, these creatures also seem further linked to the paragons found here. For example, one species is flat, 2-dimensional, and mostly resembles something akin to modern or interpretive art. That's concepts. Then there are these massive flesh baby things, most obviously linked to the paragon of flesh. Moving on, after collecting each of the 4 essences and giving Pompey a true understanding of the world, we're able to unlock each of the 4 locks, leading us into a throne room where the final egg of the earth sits. Upon collecting it, the level of course ends, but that isn't it. We have a bit more to cover, notably the inner workings of Pompey's mind, the ending, an epilogue, another hidden level, and finally, the story this game holds now pieced together. As you recall, we haven't said all too much about home, beyond the fact that we can leave the home area and enter into what I can only label as the inner workings of her mind, or how she sees it at least. It's here we navigate through several layers, each blocked off by a lock we can open via the keys we've collected through each and every level in the game. Notably, this place is also inhabited by several NPCs, each likely performing some odd function, save for a few we don't know what exactly they do. But it's here in the final room we find Pompey's brain, and a final locked door. Entering it, we're brought to a 3D section, the area itself nameless, but notably, there's a normal moon in the sky, not an Earth, and it's down a long hall we discover two beings. One made of white, another of black, and it's here we're given a conversation. I'll read it aloud now. It's after this we fade to white, and are shown the solar system itself. Where all the planets would normally be, they're crossed out, gone, leaving only the Earth and the other Earth remaining. But it's not Earth. It can't be. It's Mercury and Venus, judging by their position. On top of that, even the sun is gone. Or maybe hidden. Or ruined. The only times we're on the surface, it's gone and we're bathed in a constant night, in a starless sky. The only other thing in the sky being the second Earth. When we're below the surface, however, at certain points we can witness a corrupted moon turned into what looks to be an eye. Multiple if the Earth is layered like I do believe it is. Why the stars have seemingly died, I'm currently unsure. We still have yet to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure by now many of you caught on to the fact that Pompey and the Queen of Dragonflies, or Venus, are one and the same. I kept that part purposefully unmentioned until now. I won't go in too deep with more of her characterization until we fully cover Mercury, so for the moment, we still have more to look at. Next up, there's the game's ending, which begins with this text. I'm falling. I feel like it's been coming for a while, but it never does. Deeper into the earth, deeper into the dirt, rock, and veins, and sinew. Real-world tip. There is a Mariana Trench under every town. Finally, we're brought to the depths of the ocean. The Mariana Trench. The one beneath the city on the surface, presumably. For a time we wander. The murky depths and my own fear of the ocean, especially the deep ocean, making me feel especially unnerved. Up until we come upon the location's sole residents. The girl structures. These bizarre kelp or seaweed-looking creatures topped with human girl heads. Not saying anything of real interest. But it's here we find a portal of sorts. Notably, this portal looks remarkably similar to the glyphs or symbols on the Queen of Dragonflies and the King of Mercury's head in that cutscene we saw before. It's after passing through this portal, we're brought to another Thrait structure. Another one religious in nature. Within this place, the only NPC we can speak to is a lone Thrait elder. one who views this empty husk with great reverence. We also learn from this same Thrait, this husk is a remnant from when the queen entered a great metamorphosis. A metamorphosis that likely resulted in the form Pompey has now. Down below this, through a final hall, is the very center of the earth. The room is bathed in an ethereal light, and here at the center of the room is a podium. Around it are the eggs of the earth we collected. Also on the podium is a strange orb we can interact with. And upon doing so, we're brought to a cutscene. This is it. The life meat of the world. I see it and I somehow know exactly what to do. Finger movements and speaking words I know but have never heard. A warmth, a love. I will make you anew. Born to flesh from ash and clay. There you are, my wonderful child. This world has been changed. It has been twisted into something it is not. It will change more. Perhaps that is inevitable. Let us awaken your siblings. There are no secrets now. I see everything within my domain. Thank you, dear Helmet. You were perfect in every way, baby. I'm feeling pretty good. Let's leave this hole and never look back. This is the moment Pompey is truly awakened to her identity as the Queen of Venus, or Dragonflies. Her eyes opened, the memory of what she was, no, what she is, flooding back into mind. It's with that, they make a baby version of one of the giant hollow constructs we saw within the hollow nurseries. These things are likely giant engines of creation used by Vena to build and create, perhaps to destroy as well. With this newest child in hand, they sprout dragonfly wings before taking off. We see that look of nervousness and worry is gone, replaced with joy or sureness in themselves. And with that, the game comes to a close, though not just yet. As returning to the world map, we can enter a final location, a forbidden location, the library. There's only one notable item here, another document. This time, a page from what appears to be a news article, one covering a phenomenon called the Caldman 4. I'll read it now. Caldman 4, the brilliant interstellar phenomenon lighting up our skies. I don't feel I need to introduce you to the Caldman 4, the interstellar phenomenon that has been making headlines for the last month. One only has to look to the skies to see the bizarre sight. 4 brilliant lights leading what looks like a trail of absolute darkness across the night sky. The phenomenon has elicited all sorts of reactions, from wonder to outright panic. Many religious leaders have pointed to the Caldman 4 as a sign for jubilation of our end times to come. But what are they really? The answer is, we don't really know. The Caldman 4 were first discovered on January 16, 2021 by Harris Caldman, a worker at the Green Bank Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia. At the time, they were characterized as a set of several superheated interstellar objects moving through space at speeds previously unheard of. What of the dark space behind them? Leading scientists assure that the stars are all most likely still there, but their light has been absorbed and hidden from us by way of a phenomenon known as Heath-Nightingale absorption. Light is absorbed into the trail of the Caldman 4 and expelled out at the sides, known as the photon edge. Upon exiting this note and proceeding to walk away, 4 massive red eyes appear from the void. This is the Caldman 4. Those eyes are the Caldman 4, or as we know them, the king of all dogs and his compatriots. The reason the stars and all but the Earth and Earth 2 are gone. Making a break for the door, the eyes focus on us, but we can easily escape. Or after, entrance has been renamed to exit. The implications to this are massive. So from what we understand now, the Caldman 4 are responsible for either destroying or blotting out the stars and other planets in the solar system, as well as using the world's population as playthings. I believe now that while they are here to use the king and queen to their own benefit, they instead aim to somehow enslave the pair, or at the very least, make it so the two can't pose a threat to them. We know that at the very least, this group was spotted in the 2020s, but at the same time, they could have been active long before humanity even caught sight of them. This brings me back to the thing we saw in Spiral. 4. That's a very important number when it comes to the group. Caldman 4. The entity we saw in Spiral. 4 eyes. 4 different colors of vein or nerve. 4 smiley faces, and 4 hands. There's potential that the group are one and the same and are simply split apart to perform better or perform more tasks at once. But there's also the possibility that they each serve a purpose similar to the paragons or flesh constructs from the Hollow Nursery. But what exactly their purpose would be if that was the case, I'm unsure. Right now, it seems they're only in the pursuit of having fun. Their version of fun being the mindless slaughter of others. I'll return to the Caldman 4 in a moment. Right now, we have to go to the exit and see what else the game's hiding. After that, there's one final secret the game holds. Exit opens with a shot of Pompey in her awakened state. They then blast off and shatter the lens of what seems to be a camera, or perhaps one of these eyes that are watching her. Red text stating that their connection to the subject was lost, though they then lock onto a new subject, one that's told to wake up. The shot then changes, and this new subject exits an empty room, placing them in the middle of a desert, where we find they were inside of a motel. Down on the ground floor is code, and in the sky we can see Venus, Earth, the planet Pompey is on. If it's not abundantly clear, we're now playing as the King of Mercury. Upon descending to the ground floor and heading to interact with code, we're again brought to another cutscene similar to what we saw in Pompey's head. I'll read it out now. Ah, how nice to meet you. I do say, my good sir, your face seems to have broken and become abstracted. No matter, it happens to the best of us. We have more important things at hand. I am the king of all dogs, and I bring you a very important warning. Look to the skies. Do you not feel it? When you set your eyes upon the bloody earth above, do you not see it? Something terrible has awoken. Soon, it will descend upon the landscape and bring about utmost destruction. I must beseech you, you must put an end to it. Only you have the power to do so. I know a business-minded individual like yourself will have no problem figuring this out. We must make haste. I have some associates that I will introduce you to right away. Come along now. There is no time to lose. It's after this, we're brought to the world map. The only selectable location in sight being Meeting Place. The icon displaying the outline of 4 individuals. Upon entering the level, we're brought into a canyon-like place where we're tasked with gathering the other 3 members of the group, the trio being scattered at different parts throughout the level. But it's from these short interactions we can both learn a small bit about each member of the family and Mercury themselves. The first member I came upon was Code, who of course tells us the family is scattered and we have to unite them. After wandering for a time, we come across a new species, the Evren. Much like the Thrait, it's stated in a Tumblr post that they are the king of Mercury's companion species. All male, while the Thrait are female, the two reproducing via parthenogenesis. Parthenogenesis is a form of asexual reproduction where the embryo develops from an unfertilized egg without the need for fertilization, which is quite interesting. While the two don't exactly see anything interesting, one notes it can feel a great evil over the land. Moving on, we eventually come upon the father, the first of the family. Instead of inspecting, licking, rubbing, or feeling, Touch instead has Mercury giving a handshake to those he meets. The father notably gives a soft, touching handshake, one that lingers too long for Mercury's liking. They also have a smug look on their face that makes Mercury's skin crawl. When they speak, they say this: "A flower is a very special thing. Its beauty is captivating, and yet it brings a stench of death, a deadly poison. What kind of flower can I give to you, sir? Ah, the dog wants me? I'll be there." Next, we make our way to another area. There, we find the daughter, who gives a surprisingly firm handshake to Mercury, and yet has more folds under their eyes than there should be, especially considering they're a child, one with rather eerie white hair. Though when they speak to Mercury, it almost feels mocking. Everyone loves puppets, especially puppets themselves. Oh, good. It's you. I was getting so bored here. I'll meet you there. By the way, what do you think about puppets? What they say makes Mercury's role all but clear to us here. Much like the failed Venus, or successful Venus, Mercury's purpose in being awoken from their slumber is to be a likely tool for the Caldman Four. One they hope will destroy Venna by the sounds of what code says. Finally, there's the mother. Far across the map, she's surrounded by what almost seems to be snakes, half submerged in the ceiling and floor of the level. Their handshake compared to the others simply flows through Mercury's hand. Though oddly, under her cloak, Mercury can hear the sound of taut, slick, leathery skin surfaces running against each other. Like the others, they speak. Oh, hello. I've been expecting you. Tell me, do you prefer pythons or constrictors? There's so many kinds of snakes, each more wonderful than the last. Am I needed? I will head there now. Each of the group acts in their own odd, unnerving way. Their interests are equally strange, but upon returning to the meeting spot, the way is cleared. And after passing through a hall, we find the family standing atop a raised section of rock. But upon approaching, a cutscene begins. Mercury turning his head to face Code, but judging by their movements, they do a double take of the way their face splits open, revealing their true self. But before that can be addressed, his attention is turned to the sky. Venus appearing clearly in the sky before a powerful force seemingly strikes the planet down. The blast being so powerful, it knocks Mercury out cold, and leads us to a teaser for the second game of all things. But that isn't all. After completing all 3 post-game levels, Pompey's Mind, the Forbidden Location, and finally this epilogue and teaser, returning to the world map reveals a final level. Vision. It's here we're shown even more bizarre information and strange world building. I'll read it all aloud now, and finally explain this game to my greatest ability.
Layer 5. Karmic Spirals. At this stage, a being's gained karma has reached a mass in which it begins to pull unto itself. Gravity, that is. Karma is birthed via the continuous cycle of life and death. The continued soul entity is compounded and grows with each form. Each life passed, karma is never lost. Whether actions are good or bad, karma is only gained. At a certain stage, the soul entity's mass will collapse into a form similar to a heavenly body, continuously grown by the actions of its avatars in growing karmic spiral. The original sun and moon were 2 examples of this. It is commonly thought that a god is the highest form of entity. This is untrue. Identity and its consequences create fully cyclical incarnation loops, which often cross back over into themselves in the procession of time. These identities may interact, love, or antagonize each other, and therefore themselves, endangering and strengthening the incarnation loop. Information, that is, karma, is passed between loops, adding to the selective collective unconsciousness that is formed between incarnations. A mother and her child may indeed be the same person. Apotheosis is the penultimate stage of life in this carnal incarnation loop. It is necessary for a newborn god to create the conditions needed for the next layer to be born and calcified. The dream exists as existential fimbriae between reality. Information is produced and harvested by the dream, growing the collective unconsciousness, shared between individual realities. When an entity ceases to exist, their dreams do not die with them. Personally, I can't stand how any of this feels.
I don't care what the penny pushers are saying. I don't care what the lawmakers are thinking or what scam they're trying to hawk. They do not see it, and are just a part of that same membrane. It's everywhere. The rules of it all. Each place in time and movement in space is punctuated by these rules in a sickening way. Our greatest enemy is the fabric itself. The universe is malevolent. Some people believe in vibrations, that you should speak no evil, for it creates unto itself. They are fools. Do you think the universe cannot hear our thoughts? It rules to contradict each one of them. We are not free in our bodies. We are not free in our minds. We are not free in our DNA. To better understand some of what's said here, I'll give you a brief explanation on what exactly karma is. Karma is a concept from ancient Indian philosophies like Hinduism and Buddhism, meaning action or deed. It's the idea that every action you take, good, bad, or neutral, creates energy that affects your future experiences. Positive actions like kindness build good karma, leading to happiness or growth, while negative actions like harm create bad karma, bringing challenges. This cycle continues through life and in some beliefs across reincarnations, shaping your destiny. It's not punishment or reward, but a natural cause and effect process, encouraging mindful living. What Psychopomp presents, however, is that one can attain true godhood and something even farther beyond it when you reach a certain threshold. One where the lines between good and bad karma blur, where any action you take, be it incredibly good or horrendously bad, will slowly push you towards godhood and beyond. The idea presented here, I believe, gives us the idea the Caldman 4, Vena, and Mercury, as well as potentially every living thing, are one and the same, simply existing at the same time and yet at a different time. The girl we crush with a hammer in the first level is Pompey. The Thrait we speak to in Sewage Treatment is Mercury. Everything's connected, intertwined, and yet disconnected, and far apart. But again, existing concurrently across the fabric of space and time at different points in existence. The very idea a being can ascend to godhood and beyond means that we are a part of a singular unconsciousness, and that again, Pompey, Mercury, the Caldman 4, humanity, the Thrait, the Everin, and everything in between is the same being. The same dream existing at a different point in time. Of course, I could be insane, and the analysis of this game and accompanying lore has driven me completely mad. But I'll let you be the judge. Now let's go over everything we've learned thus far. The game's story begins before we even take control of Vena. It starts with her pre-reincarnation self returning to the Earth, or Venus, to the ire of all who saw them. We learn of this first in Daddy's Bad Place in an old news broadcast. We don't learn much else about this time, but we know Vena entered a metamorphosis for one reason or another, shedding their godlike dragonfly-like form during what's likely a reincarnation, if anything. It's in the level starting point where her chrysalis lie. However, when nobody was looking, she hatched and wandered off, going on to exist for God knows how long on Earth in this human form. During this time she lived, worked, and eventually became paranoid. It's not that she's schizophrenic. She's suffering from the weight of billions of years of knowledge, unable to break free from her currently caged mind, resulting in all of her strange behavior. This is also further helped by the fact she's only been truly alive in this form for what's likely a short time. If this Tumblr post is right, they've been truly active for all but 2 days. So everything is new to them, which explains their reactions to everything. It's at some point they create the Psychopomp, and I feel now is a good time to explain what a Psychopomp is for the most part. Psychopomps are creatures, spirits, angels, demons, or deities in many religions whose responsibility it is to escort newly deceased souls from Earth to the afterlife. Their role is not to judge the deceased, but to simply guide them. Appearing frequently on funerary art, Psychopomps have been depicted at different times and in different cultures as anthropomorphic entities: horses, deer, dogs, whippoorwills, ravens, crows, vultures, owls, sparrows, and cuckoos. In the case of birds, these are often seen in huge masses, waiting outside of the home of the dying. As opposed to acting as a guide to the afterlife, the Psychopomp, being an object made from various objects they believe powerful, likely allowed them to break some type of mental block, making them savvy to the world hidden beneath their feet. What's more, this could all be by design, as we don't know how long the Caldman 4 have been on Venus, the planet. Chances are, they've been orchestrating things from the very beginning. We also learned they're planning for something in the communications room level, but their comment about Venna hiding is strange, because by all means, she should be infinitely stronger than the Caldman 4, thanks to her billions of years of life, and likely incredibly high karma. Then again, they could be working simply to pit the two gods against one another. But to what end, I'm unsure. What we do know is the true humanity has been wiped out by the Four, leaving the clay beings in the human seedbed to fill the position for the most part. The Thrait, for one reason or another, have been left alone or presumed extinct by the Four, so they aren't even something they actively look for any longer, seemingly. Getting back on track, we follow Pompey as they venture deeper and deeper into the Earth's crust. While many of the levels are simply in-universe explanations for many of the things one could see on the surface in the real world, we eventually discover Pompey's true identity as the Queen of Dragonflies. It's after this they break free of the Caldman 4 surveillance. We know of Venna's distaste for what the world she made has become, and it's likely she gathered her hollow constructs and potentially the Thrait too before setting off. This ties into Mercury's story, as in the meeting place, we likely see Pompey annihilating her own planet, or maybe even remaking it. From there, that's the end of the game until you receive the second installment in the series. But I'd like to go over some things. Notably, the parallels between Venus and Mercury. First of all, Mercury and Venus are both seemingly total opposites. While Venna is painted as being more foolhardy, rough, and messy, Mercury is well put together, thought out, business-minded. You can see this in the way they dress, the tools they wield, the way they interact with the world, and even in their UI. As while Venna's is more industrial and angular, Mercury's is more rounded, clean, and all around better looking. It's said that opposites attract, and perhaps this is for good reason. Venna, depending on the player, can be downright homicidal. In many of the levels, their objectives involve either destroying or killing things, while in the little we have to go over with Mercury, they're polite and far more reserved than Venna. They even use a nail, while Pompey uses a hammer. Of course, with the two being one and the same, perhaps they need one another to function as they should. Perhaps with no yin to her yang, Venna would run amok, destroying and remaking things solely in her image when without her partner. Of course, I do doubt the idea quite a bit when you look into account that the two were likely together for many, many of these billions of years. Perhaps she's currently searching for her other half. Another half that's just barely awoken like Venna, and one who's even more than her being led astray by the Caldman 4. Speaking of them and karma, recall how in the level Visions, how at a point it's said that karma eventually snowballs out of control, where any reaction results in karmic growth. Perhaps the Caldman 4 seek to ascend beyond godhood using Venna and Mercury's creation power. Speaking of, let's return to the Visions level and its contents. Personally, I enjoy the idea of the Caldman 4, Venna, and Mercury being one and the same. The same being existing at different points in time and at the same time. With how utterly ancient Venna and Mercury are, I wouldn't doubt it. The very idea of a collective unconsciousness means that every human, or in this case entity, is bound to one another. Psychopomp taking it further with the addition of the idea we all exist at the same time, but at different points due to the cyclical nature of time and reincarnation. Of course, this could be completely wrong. We do have a second game coming later down the line that will no doubt expand on the ideas and themes we see in the game. I also had the idea that the final snippet of text we receive in the level could be from Venna themselves, or at least a past reincarnation of them, or something similar. The appearance this level has, and the things said make me think this place is deeply connected to this collective unconsciousness we see. The idea this consciousness preserves information across reincarnations and beyond the total death of an entity make me think that these green wireframe things on top of this even more bizarre location is a part of this afterlife of sorts. Or, at the very least, something Vena can see due to her ascension back into the Queen of Dragonflies. Perhaps I have it all wrong. Perhaps Vena actually seeks to break the cycle, to seek out true freedom by destroying the fabric, the universe. Perhaps by ascending beyond godhood they already have in Psychopomp. Throughout the game, we see Vanna going place to place and wreaking havoc upon the world she apparently rules over and or made. We see them destroy the head of production, the foundation of all buildings, and not only that, the place from which all DNA originates, which in this world also decides what actions a living being takes. Looking back to Visions, the second wireframe being we see states that godhood isn't the highest form of entity. Perhaps ascending beyond this state means becoming something akin to the universe itself. Perhaps again I'm wrong. Maybe the universe is Vena. Maybe it is the Caldman 4, Mercury, and everything else. And perhaps this is a constant cycle. And at one point or another, a fragment or version of Vena, the universe or whatnot, is bound to seek or accidentally reach a state beyond godhood, only for it to repeat all over again and again and again. Life implies death. A beginning implies an end. But I have to ask, what do you think? I can go on all day about what I believe and what exactly I think is going on in this game. But as a human, I'm bound to get things wrong. Even more so considering I've only been doing this type of content for a year or so. So tell me what you make of everything. And you may just appear in the Inevitables update video I'll be making on the series when the second game arrives. Of course, there's also the other Fading Club games I didn't mention due to not having played them. So there's a very good chance I'm either proven wrong or backed up there. With that, on screen right now should be art from some of the amazing people on my Discord server, which you can also join. If you enjoyed this incredibly long video, by this point we're well over an hour and 30 minutes long, so I'd like to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. Every little bit helps. I'm Dregobob, hoping you had a wonderful time watching this video. I also hope you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye-bye! Also, I beat Pyrocynical to this. Boom!